What is up, guys? We're back with more picks and predictions. This weekend, we have a massive card. We have UFC 311 in Los Angeles. This card is stacked from top to bottom. The main event is Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan for the lightweight title. We have a co-main event that's also a championship fight. We have Umar Nurmagomedov at 18-0 challenging Merab Dvalishvili for the bantamweight belt. And then we also have people like, Grant Dawson, Jailton Almeida on the prelims. We also have people like Yuri Prohaska versus Jamal Hill on the main card as well. So stacked card from top to bottom. Let's quickly hop into a recap of our premium bets for UFC Vegas 101 and then hop into the predictions for this weekend's card. All right, so the recap for UFC Vegas 101 should be pretty quick. I barely put out any units last week because I thought a lot of the lines were a little bit too wide for my liking. We only had 3 bets last week. We had a 0.75 unit bet on Aliv and Magomed Gaziasulov. That bet did not hit, and Gaziasulov in general was just a bad pick. He definitely showed a bunch of flaws in that fight. Just didn't look good at all. Super boring fight as well. Then we had a half a unit bet on Roman Kopylov by decision, which was a painful bet to watch lose. I mean, Kopylov definitely won rounds 1 and 3. He would have won the decision if it went there. And then, he gets Chris Curtis with a head kick with like 6 seconds left in the third round. The clock goes down to 1 second left, and then the ref calls it. That was a pretty painful one. That would have put us in the green once again for last week, but it's okay. Like I said, we barely put out any units, only 1.5 units out on the entire card. So not really too worried about it. And then we had a Felipe Bunez money line for a quarter unit bet that came through, brought back some of the units. Overall, lost 0.86 units. I'm okay with that. The weeks we are negative, we are kind of like close enough to the break-even point. And then the weeks we are positive, we definitely clear. At least that's the way it's been going so far. So low betting card. Came out a little bit in the red. We'll move on. We'll get it back this week and more. All right, so to kick off the card, we actually have a pretty interesting matchup. We have Clayton Carpenter versus Tagir Ulanbekov. I do really like this fight to start off the card. I'm high on Clayton Carpenter as a prospect. He is a really good boxer and really well-rounded. We've seen him use offensive wrestling quite a bit. He's also coming off a submission win to Lucas Hosha. Got a rear naked choke in the second round. So he is well-rounded. Boxing is his, kind of base, but he's good everywhere, and I think that he's going to have a pretty bright future in the UFC. He's definitely going to be able to rack up some wins within the promotion. But the issue in this matchup is that he's 8-0, so fairly inexperienced in his pro MMA career so far, and he's fighting someone like Tagir Ulanbekov, who's been around for a little bit, and also coming out of, just a very well-versed camp in Khabib's camp with obviously Umar and Islam as well. So he's going to come out of that. They're going to have a good game plan for someone like Clayton Carpenter. I think the experience is going to, play the role here for someone like Tagir. I obviously see the regular wrestle-heavy game plan in this matchup, specifically with, Carpenter's boxing background. Tagir is probably going to want to, get this fight on the mat, keep it there as well. So I like Tagir. Maybe he even finds a sub. Not too sure. How he rises. He could obviously also just ride out a decision in this matchup. Probably more likely that he rides out a decision. So I'm going to lean Ulanbekov. The more I actually talk about this fight, the more I'm confident that Tagir probably does get it done. He is minus 340, which is one thing I think is a little bit rough because Carpenter is definitely going to put up a fight. So against Carpenter, I doubt he's going to come out there and just look super dominant, but I do think he's going to have enough experience and enough tools in the bank to get this one done. So Tagir is going to be the pick. Up the card, we have Ricky Turcios versus Benardo Sopaj. This is actually rescheduled. This fight was scheduled earlier, and I actually had Turcios winning the fight before it got rescheduled. Now, I've done more digging. I'm going to flip it to Sopaj, and I'll tell you why. I think that at the end of the day, someone like Ricky Turcios, you know what you're going to get from him. He's not the best fighter, but he's going to try to overwhelm you just by working a lot and a lot more than you even want to come out and work. So someone like Sopaj, who we've seen gas a little bit actually in his fight against Vinicius Oliveira, where he just died at the end and Oliveira hit him with like a Mortal Kombat fatality in that matchup. So he's coming off that loss, and he did gas out in that third round. So the gas tank is definitely something on Turcios' side, and that is actually Turcios' best weapon, the way he fights. Just do so much fucking work that your opponent just gets tired, and you don't get tired because you have the best gas tank in the octagon that night. That's actually Turcios' best weapon, and that's actually his path to victory here. He's probably going to get dominated in round 1, to be honest, by Sopaj. I think Sopaj's going to be able to come there, impose his game plan. Sopaj is good everywhere too. Definitely does have some good power in his hands, and also, can take stuff to the ground. Definitely not, lost on the ground by as such. So Sopaj is good everywhere. And then you have someone like Turcios. Probably going to get fucked up round 1. We're going to see how the fight progresses, especially if you see Sopaj, definitely start to slow down quite a bit at the end of round 1. Maybe some live betting spots on Turcios won't be bad at all. Something to keep in mind because Turcios will definitely pick it up, especially if he sees his opponent getting gassed out, which I think Sopaj could potentially get gassed out. But outside of that, I think that Sopaj definitely does enough work to win, rounds 1 and 2. I think this one definitely goes to the cards, though. Turcios is tough, definitely super durable. If he does get finished, a lot of times it's by submission, which I don't think Sopaj is going to kind of look for or hunt here. I think if he hunts for knockouts, someone like Ricky Turcios can stay up and not get knocked out. So probably goes to the cards. I do think that Sopaj picks up 1 and 2. I'm not as confident about round 3 in this. But while Sopaj is fresh, he's going to be beating Ricky Turcios. How quickly does he fade is going to be the question in this matchup. And at first I thought, someone like Turcios could get him to fade early. But the more I look at it, I think the safer bet here is probably Sopaj to, kind of get rounds 1 and 2 done. So, yeah, Sopaj is going to be the pick. Now, next fight on the card is Rinya Nakamura versus Muin Gafurov. Nakamura is going to be the pick, but one thing I'll tell you is me personally, I'm not high on Asian fighters, especially when they're priced at minus 500. But realistically, Nakamura, pretty good prospect from Japan. He is, known to be a very high-level wrestler. And someone like Muin Gafurov, we've seen him struggle, get wrestled a little bit. He's coming off a win against Kyung Ho Kang, and in that fight, I think Ho Kang actually did do some good wrestling on someone like Muin Gafurov. So if that's happening with him and Ho Kang, definitely Nakamura can put in a bunch of work. And then obviously prior to that, he gets choked out by Nurmagomedov in round 1. Definitely holes in Muin Gafurov's grappling game, and that is Nakamura's wheelhouse. So we're going to lean Nakamura, or not lean, sorry. We're going to pick Nakamura realistically. He's going to get this one done, but probably a future fade. I'm not super high on him. I definitely hate this line too. I'm not going to be playing it. He is realistically safe, though. Maybe some bias coming through here. But yeah, Nakamura's going to be the pick. I think the wrestling is probably what's going to get it done for him. Up next, we have Karol Rosa versus Ailin Perez. This fight is super interesting, especially from a betting perspective. The line on this fight has been moving pretty wild the last few days, so that's something to note. When it comes to this fight, I'm going to pick Ailin Perez to win. I've picked Ailin Perez to win the entire time this line was up, but interesting note on the line, Ailin Perez is now a plus 210 underdog. Karol Rosa's at minus 258 as a favorite. I think that's absolutely insane. This line was sitting at about plus 130, plus 140 for Ailin Perez for the last few weeks, and then recently in the last 2 days it's just jumped where a ton of action has come on Karol Rosa. This matchup, I think that Karol Rosa is going to want to strike, obviously, and we know Ailin Perez is going to want to just, constantly try to go for the takedown, and I think she can get it on someone like Karol Rosa, which is why I'm really concerned about why the line is moving this way. I think it's just very weird. But my pick's going to be Ailin Perez. I think that she can get Karol Rosa down, use her grappling to win this fight. We saw her come off a pretty good performance in her last matchup against Daria Zelezniakova, and I just don't think that Karol Rosa's striking is going to be, not her striking, but her takedown defense is just going to hold up enough to beat someone like Ailin Perez. I think Ailin Perez comes in here, gets it done, gets her to the ground. So Perez is going to be the pick. Like I said, the odds have been shifting in a really weird way, so play that as you will. But yeah, I'm going to pick Ailin Perez. Let's move on to the next one. Up the card, we have Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. I'm going to have to take Grant Dawson in this matchup. Grant Dawson is going to be the younger fighter. He's 30 years old, and his opponent is 40, so he's got a 10-year advantage on the age side. And then when it comes to someone like Diego Ferreira, I mean, he's on this 2-fight win streak against Mateusz Rebecki, which, that's a pretty good win. Rebecki did kind of dominate early in that fight, and then, Diego Ferreira overcomes adversity, comes back, and in round 3 gets the finish. Before that, he got a finish on Michael Johnson in 2023, which is aging pretty decently. Michael Johnson's just coming off that pretty good knockout against Otman Azatar, so someone like Diego Ferreira has an interesting career, but at the end of the day, he is 40, and we know what Grant Dawson is. Now, the sour taste of the Bobby Green loss is probably still lingering for someone like Grant Dawson, but outside of something like that, I think that if this fight actually just, goes into the deep waters, it's just going to be Grant Dawson's constant takedown attempts, constant grappling, and we know how good he is at the high-pressure wrestling, so you're going to have to pick Grant Dawson here, much younger, going to push the pace on someone like Diego Ferreira, especially in the wrestling department, and I think he definitely gets this one done by decision. He's not really a finisher. I mean, I know he's coming off that finish to Rafa Garcia, but in general, he does, kind of ride out decisions. So we're going to go Grant Dawson. Probably gets it done by decision. I'm pretty confident in this matchup. Next up, we have Zach Reese versus Azamat Bekoev. This is a replacement fight for Zach Reese before he was fighting Cedriques Dumas. I think that was an absolute lock on Zach Reese. So kind of got hoed now that he has to fight Azamat Bekoev. This fight is going to be pretty interesting. I mean, it's on short notice. I've taped Azamat Bekoev a little bit. I think it's going to come down to will Zach Reese's, takedown defense kind of hold up in this fight. I think that, Jose Medina did take Zach Reese down a little bit in his matchup earlier on. Someone like Bekoev, super durable guy though, so don't think that Zach Reese is going to get a finish in this matchup. I'm going to pick Zach Reese to win, which is, kind of interesting. I think that Zach Reese gets it done. I don't think this fight ends in a finish. I think someone like Bekoev is definitely super tough to finish. Will Bekoev, be able to get Zach Reese down quite a bit, win minutes in this fight? Who the fuck knows, to be honest. I would be lying to you if I told you I really gave a fuck. This is 2 last minute of a replacement. The tape on Bekoev looks decent. Like I said, I think the reach advantage, though, for Zach Reese is going to be pretty good. 77 inches of reach to 72 for Bekoev. So, yeah, a little bit of the reach advantage. Definitely will do good work on the feet. Don't think he'll get a knockout, though, on Bekoev. Can Bekoev take him down and win a bunch of minutes there to win the fight? Fucking maybe. But I'm going to lean Zach Reese. Not super confident in this pick, but super late replacement. Going to give Zach Reese the full camp advantage. And I got to give Bekoev, the benefit of the doubt for being a Russian. So those two things will play against each other. Going to pick Zach Reese to win this fight. But like I said, super late replacement. Bekoev could come in, do something cool here. I think that Zach Reese, though, can keep the fight standing, win this, through just a bunch of points in the striking. Next up, we have Jailton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. I'm a pretty big fan of Jailton Almeida. I really like him at heavyweight. I like the way he fights for a heavyweight. He's not one of these fat blobs. He's pretty lean for a heavyweight, really toned, and he's going to come in, be able to have like a high pace. I kind of like his grappling for heavyweight too. It's not just a type of grappling where once you get the person down, you're just like 270 pounds, so they kind of just lie on each other and nothing happens. He's pretty active once he does take you to the ground. He's active with strikes. He always has submission threats being thrown up. So I think that he can definitely get this one done against Sergey Spivak. I'm pretty confident that Jailton Almeida gets the win. I think that we've seen Spivak, struggle before. He lost earlier in his career to Marcin Tybura. Similarly, in that fight, Tybura was able to grapple a little bit on Sergey Spivak, and I think someone like Jailton Almeida doesn't come in, impose his game plan. He's going to be able to grapple Sergey Spivak for sure. So Jailton Almeida gets this one done. Once again, I'm pretty confident in this one as well. I think he can find a finish on Spivak as well, maybe ground and pound. Maybe it's a rear naked choke, so I'd be careful around the props. Maybe you just do Jailton Almeida by finish if that's something you want to play. But I think Almeida gets this one done. Pretty confident in this pick as well. Next up, we have Peyton Talbot versus Raoni Barcelos. This is going to be a pretty quick breakdown. Peyton Talbot, minus 1,300 favorite. Should be able to get this one done. His line is getting absolutely ridiculous, though. Super hyped up prospect. Raoni Barcelos is 37 years old, on the tail end of his career. Probably why this matchup is as wide as it is. And, it's kind of a layup for Peyton Talbot, I think. Raoni Barcelos, maybe he gets a few takedowns here and there, but Talbot's looking good. He's been fighting decent opposition. The win over Cameron Simon was pretty good. His last fight, though, up against Yanis Gamuri, that guy didn't even come in there to fight. He kind of just said, fuck it, I'm going to get paid, and I'm going to just go, lie down on the ground, which is kind of what he did. But the Cameron Simon win is pretty good. And, yeah, I think he's going to continue to grow. This is not the fight where he potentially does get fraud checked if he does. So Talbot's going to be the pick. Pretty straightforward here. Yeah, I'll move on to the next one. Up the card, we have Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elikana. Once again, this is a short notice, late replacement fight for Bogdan Guskov. He was supposed to fight Johnny Walker, would have been an absolute banger of a fight, which I did have Guskov winning in that fight, mostly because of Johnny Walker's chin. But once again, this matchup, I'm going to go with Guskov, probably gets it done by knockout, mostly because of the late replacement. Someone like Guskov, what you do got to worry about is, his gas tank. His hands do start, kind of dropping after a little bit. But while he's fresh, great striking, has a ton of power, does have some decent takedowns and can wrestle as well. So decent when he's fresh. You have to worry about his gas tank a little bit. He's one of those guys that's used to getting people out of there. So when there's a little bit of, adversity, things might get tough for him. Someone like Volkan Ozdemir, definitely too high of a step up in competition for him when he lost that fight. Got choked out in round 1. Definitely slowed the fuck down really quick in that fight. And then, the Ryan Spann, he did come back at a win in round 2, which was pretty good. Good to see him, kind of come through in later in the second round, second half of the fight. And then we have him fighting Billy Elikana. Like I said, short notice, late replacement fight. So we're going to roll with Guskov here, probably get it done by knockout. But someone like Elikana, did look at a little bit of tape on him. He has decent kicks, decent on the feet. So you can definitely, put in some strikes. And, okay takedowns as well. So decently well-rounded for the Elikana side. I think it's just the, short notice, full camp on the Guskov side. We're going to lean Guskov. Should be able to get this one done. Kicking off the main card, we have Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder. I'm going to have to go with de Ridder in this matchup. I'm also a Kevin Holland hater, so I'm very biased in this. I think Kevin Holland is an absolute bum. I don't think he's good at all. And one thing that's been kind of true throughout Kevin Holland's career is that people who've tried to take Kevin Holland down, have been able to take him down. And obviously, like, on the feet, I don't think he's a bum. I mean, even on the ground, he is slick. He does have submissions. But someone like de Ridder is obviously going to dominate Kevin Holland on the ground. It's just, can he get him there, which I think he can. The other thing is, he looked just really sloppy in that Mearshart fight. So maybe I am just picking a little bit with bias because it's not like de Ridder looked good in his finish against Gerald Mearshart. But then again, GM3 is tough. GM3 is one of those people that, just always been around block. They can always pull something off. Everyone knows that about GM3. So I'm not going to hold too much weight into that. When it comes to this matchup, I'm going to take de Ridder. Obviously, I probably would not bet in a spot like this at all. If you're betting this fight, I think that's pretty degenerate. But I like de Ridder to get it done. I think he gets a bunch of takedowns, especially rounds 1, 2. Maybe Holland, kind of gets some good success. It's a little bit scary round 3 if you are betting de Ridder, but he survives. Probably gets this one done by decision or something like that. And who knows, maybe he can even, find a submission on Kevin Holland. I don't know how many times Kevin Holland has been submitted. I think a few times. He got submitted by Khamzat Chimaev, but that's obviously Chimaev. So I wouldn't really put any stock into that. But yeah, outside of that, I think that de Ridder gets it done. Like I said, really degen spot, so I probably wouldn't bet this fight at all. But yeah, Ridder will be the pick. Next fight on the card, we have Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. Now, Renato Moicano is someone that I just literally cannot keep doubting. I didn't think Renato Moicano was that good, but against Jailton Turner, I actually did pick him. I did pick him by submission, though. I thought he could pull off a sub on someone like Jailton Turner. He ended up getting the TKO. So that one was interesting, but I definitely doubted him against BSD. I had BSD winning that fight, and he put an absolute clinic on BSD in round 1. A really destructive round 1 from Renato Moicano. So while he might not have this crazy knockout power on the feet, his ground and pound, he can definitely put in work on. He definitely did a bunch of damage to BSD in that first round, so I would keep that in mind. Now, in this fight against Beneil Dariush, I will be picking Renato Moicano, but, I think his line did run a bit. I'm sure he's kind of coming back, actually, on the betting side. I know he touched minus 200 at some point, but seems like that line is pulling back. He's at minus 170 right now, and I think it's going to make sense to kind of tighten up a little bit. I think people are writing off Beneil Dariush just a little too quickly. Dariush has, he's coming off 2 losses, but those 2 losses are to Oliveira and Tsarukyan, who are kind of just those, like, top level, I guess, like, championship fight gatekeepers. Like, they're not gatekeepers into the rankings, but they're gatekeepers to getting a shot at the belt. And those guys are kind of like just the 2 best in the division right now outside of the champion. So those 2 losses, I wouldn't put, like, insane stock into losing to those guys. I think the reality of it is just more how he lost, the way he got knocked out. That was looking bad for Beneil Dariush. And I think that's going to be the difference maker, which is why I'm picking Renato Moicano. I think that the way Dariush's career has kind of panned out so far has been, he was on this, like, pretty meteoric rise within the lightweight division. He gets to Oliveira. He's, I think, favored in that fight against Oliveira. Actually, does get knocked out in round 1 and then gets brutally knocked out again by Arman Tsarukyan in round 1 as well, which just kind of fully derailed his rise within the division. And then we have someone like Renato Moicano, who's kind of, been in the UFC for a hot minute, but now he's stringing wins together again, climbing back up the rankings. Obviously, has done really well for himself on the social media side, brand building and stuff like that. So very marketable. He's been pushing himself a lot. Like I said, strung together a bunch of wins. I mean, I think skill for skill, I would actually pick Beneil. I just think more mentality coming into this fight. It will be close. Beneil's not going to be able to, just do whatever the fuck he wants to with Renato Moicano on the ground. I think that on the ground, these guys are going to be fairly evenly matched, actually. It's going to come to how I think the striking match between these two will go. And I think that, Moicano could probably be the more active, more hard-working fighter just based on the mentality going into this fight. Moicano's not going to let this fight just slip based off, not being active enough on the feet. I don't think that's going to be something that's going to happen. He's not going to be scared to go out there, take risks in the striking department. But when it comes to like the power, that's going to obviously lean Dariush's side. So Dariush's going to have the power, but Moicano's not going to let someone like Dariush outwork him, not at this point in his career. And then when it comes to the ground, I think it's pretty even. So that's why I'm going to kind of lean Moicano. Maybe Dariush lands, some knockout shot. So if you are on the Dariush side, in my opinion at least, I think you play a knockout prop for Dariush. I think that's his path to victory here. But, just straight up on the fight, I don't see Moicano letting Dariush outwork him to a decision. I think that, Moicano has the tools to land a bunch more on Dariush here. So that's what it's going to come down to. Moicano is going to be the pick. Like I said, I'm not like too confident, but I do think Moicano just kind of grinds this one out in like kind of one of his Moicano type fashion. So yeah, we'll move on to the next one. All right, now next up we have Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. Once again, this matchup is absolutely insane in my opinion. I mean, this matchup is just Alex Perez children fighting each other, and I don't know how the fuck this matchup is probably going to play out. I'm going to lean Yuri Prochazka to win only because I think Yuri Prochazka just has that dog in him. We've seen him, Rakic was doing work to Yuri Prochazka in the first round. Yuri Prochazka says, fuck that, comes in there, just wings punches, gets Rakic out of there in the second round. Obviously has the 2 losses to Alex Pereira recently. And then outside of that, we have Jamal Hill, who, Jamal Hill, probably the more technical fighter out of these two, probably has better, like, skills on paper, but just his mentality outside the octagon, especially after that knockout to Alex Pereira, has just been absolutely trash. I think that, he's being a little bit delusional, and I just think that his best win realistically is Glover Teixeira, and Glover Teixeira was 40 when they fought. Not to say that, obviously at 40 he still gave Yuri problems as well, so there's a little bit of a caveat on that, but I'm going to go with Yuri Prochazka to just kind of dog out Jamal Hill in this fight. Jamal Hill, like I said, more skilled on paper, but with the Prochazka fight, it just doesn't matter. So unless you have Alex Pereira power and just kind of like sniping someone like Yuri Prochazka, which, I mean, maybe Jamal Hill can do that. I'm not obviously writing that off. It is a super close fight, but give me Prochazka. He's also the underdog here, so better money on him. I think Prochazka could get it done. All right, now the co-main event, we got Merab Dvalishvili trying to defend his bantamweight strap against Umar Nurmagomedov. I've been pretty stern on this fight since it's been announced. Umar Nurmagomedov is going to be my pick. I think that he has multiple paths to victory in this matchup, and Merab realistically only has one. We saw Umar's scramble skills against Corey Sandhagen, and I just think that we know Merab is not this like crazy finisher when he gets fights to the ground. So it's not like he's looking for subs or, he's trying to dish out crazy ground and pound. So realistically, Merab has to beat Umar by decision. Now, what are the ways he could beat Umar by decision? He's not going to outstrike Umar Nurmagomedov, especially like what you saw in the O'Malley fight with like a flat-footed O'Malley. That's not going to be the case because, Umar's not going to be as worried. Even if Umar is worried about Merab's wrestling, he's not going to be as worried as someone like Sean O'Malley because obviously Umar does have the tools on the ground. He's coming out of Khabib's camp. We can trust that, he's not going to get just dog-walked on the ground. That's absolutely not what's going to happen. So Merab's not going to be able to, outstrike Umar, win minutes on the feet to a decision. What does Merab realistically have to do? He's going to have to do a cage, clinching, a super grindy chain wrestling, chaining up, failed takedown after failed takedown until he finally gets one. Some real, Mario Batista versus Jose Aldo type behavior, but he's going to have to do that for 5 rounds, which I think is absolutely insane. Or, he's going to have to at least get 3 of the 5 against someone like Umar, and that's just not going to happen. Umar could, piece Merab up on the feet. Umar can probably out-scramble Merab. He's probably the more dangerous submission threat out of the two of these guys. You could go back and forth on who has better pure wrestling, and maybe Merab has just shown to use it better than Umar, so you can kind of lean, okay, Merab has better pure wrestling, but is it at a significant enough, deviation from Umar's wrestling where he can kind of control Umar for 3 rounds? Absolutely not. I think this is a very simple prediction. Umar should win this. I'm not really worried about what Merab has to offer in this matchup at all, just because of the way he's been coming out and winning these fights. I think the best win Merab probably maybe like Henry Cejudo because of Cejudo's wrestling background. He was able to kind of, fuck Cejudo up on the ground, which is pretty impressive, I guess, but just don't think that's going to be the case with Umar. Umar's going to scramble a lot. He's going to invite Merab to wrestle if he wants to. It's not going to be good for Merab, so credits to Merab for taking this fight as his first title defense. This is definitely the hardest fight in the division for anyone, so credits to Merab, like I said, for picking up this fight. but Umar should be able to get it done, and I'm pretty confident on my end with this pick. Now, the main event, we have Islam Makhachev defending his belt against Arman Tsarukyan. This is going to be a really good main event. We've seen, Makhachev has looked a little bit human, and I think that is kind of driving a lot of the narrative around how people think this fight is going to play out. But I don't think that that's actually going to be the case. One thing that is really in Makhachev's favor in this fight, rematches tend to go the way the first match went. I think that's just a given. And with Makhachev, kind of with Poirier, he said he was surprised with some of the, the wrestling defense that Poirier kind of managed to show off in their last fight. And I think a lot of the stake going into this matchup is two things. The fact that people think that Arman gave Islam a hard fight in his first matchup when Arman was 22, and he should have, in theory, improved a lot, which is kind of true, but not really. If you go rewatch that fight, I mean, Makhachev won that fight 30-27. That definitely has not been Makhachev's hardest fight. I think the Volk fight that Makhachev fought, the first Volk fight, was definitely Makhachev's hardest fight ever. And at the time, Volk was, pound for pound #1 on an absolute tear and in crazy form. So that was probably Makhachev's hardest fight. The last Poirier performance, Makhachev says that he was kind of surprised with the way Poirier was able to stuff some of the takedowns, some of the improvements in his wrestling, which is, I guess, something you have to kind of take to his word. But that, he kind of looked a little bit human, and I think that's where a lot of the narrative around Arman Tsarukyan winning this matchup kind of shows up. But one, I don't believe that Arman Tsarukyan is a better pure wrestler between the two of these. If you do believe that, then that's an opinion you can hold. But my opinion is that Islam Makhachev is a better wrestler between the two of these guys. His camp has also proven time and time again to know how to use it the best. On top of that, when it comes to striking, I think that while Arman Tsarukyan may potentially have, a little bit more power, I guess you could lean that way. Maybe slightly more technique. I don't know. The striking is probably pretty close, but I think Makhachev, he throws more, he mixes it up more. I think he has better kicks than Arman, and you could pull up the axe kick against Oliveira, but that didn't really do shit. So I think, Islam has the better kicks, especially. I think he's going to be the better striker just by a little bit. I think he's going to be the better wrestler also by a little bit, and it's going to be one of those things where I don't think Arman is actually better than Islam anywhere. I think he's just a slightly worse version than Islam. So that's my opinion on it. I think because of that, Islam Makhachev is going to be my pick, and I'm fairly confident that Makhachev retains the belt this weekend. If you're on the Tsarukyan side, I mean, this fight's probably going to look close. I will tell you that. I do think the line has ran a little bit too wide on Makhachev. I'm also more confident on Umar than Makhachev, which is interesting because obviously Makhachev's line has gone further. But I think that's something where you just kind of trust Makhachev as a fighter in general, where his fight IQ is going to be high. He's going to come in, obviously, so much on the line for him. His coach is obviously Khabib, so very, well-known camp. We know what we're going to get from them. We're going to roll with that. I don't think there's a time to switch up on that. And yeah, that's going to be my prediction for this fight. All right, guys, that does it for all the picks and predictions for UFC 311. I think there's some pretty decent betting spots on this card, even though the lines have been running for quite a while since they've been up since before the break. But like I said, decent betting spots, some fighters on this card that you can trust. The card is absolutely stacked from top to bottom. If you guys do want to check out our premium bets, they're on kopicks.win for $20 a month. Our premium betting strategy has been, profitable over the last 12 cards. A very sustainably profitable type of betting strategy. I like to bet early as well for premium, so you do catch great lines if you do sign up for premium. I would definitely check that out if that's something you're interested in. Obviously, join our Discord. Our Discord is absolutely free. The link should be in our bio for all our social media accounts, so join up on our Discord. If you have any questions about premium too, join the Discord and just DM me. I'm in the Discord all the time. I'm active, so you can definitely shoot me a DM. Any questions you might have, I'll answer them there. But yeah, stack card top to bottom. I'm really excited. We have a ton of units out for this card, especially in comparison to the way we like to bet. Like I said, last card for UFC Vegas 101, I had 1.5 units out, so not even 2 units out on that card. This card, so far, we already have about 5 units up on premium, and I'll probably add maybe 1 or 2 more as the week goes on. If there's anything else I like, maybe some props come out, something along that line. So yeah, definitely ton of units out on premium for this card. So check out kopicks.win, $20 a month if you do want that. I think it's a great value for your money. You definitely make the $20 back. At least all our premium members in the past have definitely been profitable off our premium membership. So you're gonna make the money back. You're gonna have good bets, solid spots for every single UFC card. So check that out. If you have any questions, join the Discord. Hit me up in the DMs. And yeah, join the Discord either way. It's free. And I will catch you guys next week.